Alright, hey guys, it's Sam. So I got a couple questions about the broadside before and after picture. So I figured I'd go through and do a little bit of an editing tutorial. But bear with me because I've definitely never done anything quite like this before. So this is the screenshot of the before and after of the broadside picture that I did. And so as you can see, there's tons of red tones, which all of us photographers hate. So I'm just going to go through and show you a little bit about how I went through and did that. Let me reset this for you. So usually when I'm editing, the first thing that I choose to do is kind of mess around with the basics section and try and get my photo a little bit closer to where I want it to be lighting wise, so I can see it better for editing. So I'm going to bump up these shadows because the shadows are pretty dark on this photo, but then I'm also going to bump up the highlights so that everything's that much more crisp. And this gives me already a much better idea of what I'm working with as far as the photo goes, so that I can go through and try and edit some out of it. Split toning is like a huge section for color correction. With this, I'm mostly going to color correct the highlights. And what I like to do first is just put it all the way up and see where my highlights are most effective, and then scale it down from there because I know that I'm not going to need it all the way up. But I am probably going to need it to be pretty strong because this red is pretty vibrant. And usually with red tones, and really with any tone that I'm trying to color correct, I want to try and think about what the opposite is on the other end of the spectrum. So when you think about the color wheel, across from red is green, so greens are going to counteract the red, and that pretty much goes the same with any color, blues and oranges, purples and yellows, that kind of thing. So you just want to think about your color wheel a little bit and get a little bit of color theory down, and that might help you with your editing. So as you can see, I'm just moving the highlights over and it already is changing the photo drastically. And I probably want to keep it in this blue-green section because I personally love cool tones, and the green is going to counteract that red, but I still want it to be just a little bit blue because I love the blue tone in photos. But then I'm also going to go down to the camera calibration section and bump down the reds to take care of any other reds that I'm still getting through there. I'm just going to take it down like that. And then as you can see, this is pretty close to what the final picture was, but not quite there. So I'm going to bump up the exposure just a little bit more to make it pop, and then add some contrast because I think that even makes images stand out even further. And then from here, I'm just going to mess with the tone and the temperature and the tint a little bit to finalize the tones in my picture, because I still want this to be a little bit more blue and a little more cool than it is, because I'm still getting a little bit of yellow and green through that. So I'm going to bump up the greens and make it slightly more pink because I especially love the pink tones and the paradise sign that they have there. So I want to maintain the integrity of that. And then from there, you can see that the paradise sign in my after picture is much more crisp. And I totally don't know if this is cheating, but I do it anyway. And I use a radial filter just to make it pop. And you want to make sure it goes above or past where you want it to be, just because it feathers out. And you want to make sure that everything that you're doing in there is purposeful. So I bump my clarity up just like I do with everything else, and then I'm going to take my highlights down so I can make that so much more crisp and that people can see that it says paradise. And then I want to make this slightly more cool and slightly more pink because the sign itself was very pink, and I want to kind of maintain that in this picture as best I can. So I might even bump the saturation up on that as well just a little bit to better make it pop out. So my paradise sign looks like paradise. Everything else looks good, but I still want Ollie's face to pop out a little bit more. And so then what I do from there is add another radial filter and bump up the clarity with him, and then the highlights just a little bit, nothing too crazy because I don't want it to look obviously brightened compared to the rest of his body, but I do want his face to stand out because that's the most emotive part of his body. And then there you have it. That is the completed result of my broadside before and after, and I'll show you the before again. and the after. Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Definitely let me know if you want to see anything more like this in the future, and I will be sure to share it with you. Thank you for checking this out. Have a good day, guys.